Hey, good morning, everyone. Yep. Hi. Thank you for joining me today for this webinar. My name is Brian. I'm from Matrix Invent. I'm a sales VP for the Matrix Invent, especially covering in the Southeast Asia market. All right. So in today, this short 30 minutes sessions, I'm going to talk a bit about on the shortfall of smart manufacturing implementation. All right. So if you are looking at the smart factory, what it is really is. So basically, it is a concept that used to describe application of a different combination of technologies, all right, modern technologies to create a hyper flexible and self-adapting manufacturing capability. So there's a one kind of a term, and there's many different concepts when it comes into smart manufacturing, right? So again, who we are, Matrix Invent is a regional value-added distributor and services for Asia Pac. So we are a group of enthusiast team members in helping manufacturing improve their manufacturing performance. Especially, we could see the in this part of the world that we are still a bit lagging behind. So that is our passions that to helping the local the Southeast Asian manufacturer and also Asia Pacific and moving the factory into a smarter factory. All right. And when we're talking about a shortfall, so there's a gap. All right. So when there's a gap on the between how do really we are doing the smart factory, okay, and what are those challenges? So some of those challenges that we could foresee that is based on a discussion with some of the customers and also some of the big players in the OT and IT technology reports. They are mentioned that there are few. All right. So the first thing, the challenges is always about the data convergence, because when you're talking about the smart factory, it's always talking about how this data from the OT floor, all right, and move it into the IT and make use of those data become meaningful for certain business decision. And which is the include of improving the efficiency of the manufacturing plant, the effectively and improve the product lifecycle management and so on. All right. And then the second part will be the connectivity and security. All right. So this is always another gap that we always see, from our discussion with some of the members, in the market, that the connectivity and the security it's always that when you come to connectivity, it's always that if let's say your plant is in a very remote area, how are you going to move those data from the machines and devices and equipment into the endpoint, all right, the end application, such as like for a data lake, or maybe a historian, or maybe potentially we are talking about AI and ML application. So how are we going to move that, all right? Because the data to move across the remote area might have a limited connectivity, all right, in terms of the internet, that make it become difficult. And if you invest into expensive connectivity such as a lease line, so the entire operation of it become more expensive, and it actually defeat the purpose of smart factory in a sense. And when it comes to the security, there's always there's a gap between the IT and OT as well. So from the OT perspective is that they are always talking about how do I ensure the operational is not disrupted, all right? And in IT, they are always talking about when you are moving the data over, all right? I need to ensure that the data is not somebody who are hijacking in the middle, and must have some sort of security in between. There's no one can tap into the line. There's no devices that is sending a spoof data to the application and so on. So there's always a gap in terms of the connectivity and security here. And of course, there is a financial implication. And a lot of the thought of the customers or from the partners is that the financial implication when I want to move into a smart factory. So are they going to cost you a lot? They are going to cost you a lot of money, right? So, and there will be required justification, and it's not easy to get a justification to entirely change those systems into a specific what I call that standard, right? To make it become a smart factory or smart manufacturing. This is also related to when you come into the brownfield and greenfield. All right. Brownfield is always a mixture. Some of the old technologies are still in place that is not easy to be replaced. Say, for example, first is financial, of course, and then the second is a technological wise, and whether the machines, the current machine can connect with the new sensors or some of the new what I call that, the equipment or edge computing that are going to be sent over the data. And also the greenfield, of course, greenfield is the wonderful things that everything in the new environment with all the latest technologies available, right? And business continuity, right, is another challenges. So when we come into like converting the manufacturing or manufacturer factory or plant into fully smart. So what kind of the implication is going to be happen? So are we going to stop the production? That is bring a huge implication to the business, right? So this is another challenge you're going to facing in terms of when you want to move your factory into a smart factory. Skill and ability. All right. So a lot of times that when you come in to implement such project, all right. So it may not be easy to kind of finding the right skill people to not only to implement but also to ongoing to improve and maintain those systems. So skill and ability also another challenges when it come into making your factory become a smarter factory. But regardless of, so our focus today is that we go back to the first point, which is a data convergence between an OT and an IT. All right, why I was actually selected these subjects and also selected these challenges is because that myself is from the IT background, and now I've been moving into the have an understanding about OT technology. I mean the OT for 5 years, and I could foresee there is a huge gap in between OT and IT because the expectation and the role between the OT people and the IT people is totally different. Say for example, IT when it come into like analytics, when it come into business decision reporting, it's always at IT. All right, but OT will not know, IT will not know what kind of data that can be provided by the OT, right? And there's a lot of misunderstanding or huge gap in between the understanding of those data itself. And to make it integrate, such as from all those OT operational technologies application to the IT, such as ERP or MES, there is always a data differences between them. There's a discrepancy of the data, and they are not synchronized or they are not talking with the same language. Okay. So here's what we are usually seeing in a traditional manufacturing plant, all right, or maybe a factory. Okay, so whereby you have those equipment and sensors. You could be talking a different kind of a protocol, all right, and maybe OPC-UA or maybe a Modbus and so on. So, and there will be potentially there's also some analog input. Okay, some equipment is just sending analog input. They don't really sending any digital output at all. So, what you can do in the silo system that you will be having to integrating with a different equipments and sensors, all right, or such as like a PLC or devices or maybe an edge gateway into a a spaghetti mode. All right, why I call it a spaghetti? If you look at the middle of all those lines, it look like a spaghetti, right? So if let's say the SCADA system needs something from a PLC, they will have to create a different connection. And then if your MES, they need data from the gateway at the top, then they will need to create another separate connections, and different languages and protocols are actually messed up here. And what will happen? All right. So obviously, ongoing maintenance is going to be a nightmare. Okay, it's going to be a nightmare for the whole IT people. All right. And of course, that is also you must have the people who are skilled enough to do all this connection, okay, or do this integration together. And this is going to be a nightmare for the OT and as well as the IT to maintain it in the long run. So what if? Yeah, so this is the challenges when you have a silo system. So it's difficult to change workflow and processor. If any changes that need to be done, and it is a whole new thing to have to reconfigure again, right? So, and then you have difficult to sell a new system, all right? Because you need to create a different set of connection to the different endpoint of the application in the enterprise level, and difficult to analyze data across the entire system. Managing the security and data flow between the device and machines to the application. So this is another IT OT challenges that I actually address in a very first slide. Okay, so if you have any questions, please post it on the chat or the questions. The area where you are posting a question. So I have a colleague who actually going to read out the questions to me later on. Okay, so what if we can have something that is decouple all those those silo systems that we are seeing very earlier, in the previous slide. So you have a device, you have a sensors, OPC, UA, Modbus, digital input or analog output that is connecting through the edge gateway, okay? And we have also maybe have a PLC or some certain native devices that can send data across to the gray circle here, all right? And all this IT application, either on the cloud, you're running on Azure or your AWS or the Google, and all those applications can retrieve all those data from this gray circle, right? And this gray circle is only talking one languages, right? So this guy will become like a middleman, all right, a translator, or you call it, okay, or you can call it as a post office, all right. But this post office is not only deliver a message or deliver the letter, but they also translate the languages as well, all right. So it becomes like a middleware. So in IT we call it a middleware, all right. And but we could see that is still an issue exists. Why? Because if let's say the device and the endpoints have different topics of payloads and the data structures that is sent from either from the gateway or the sensors, then you need to do something about it, right? You still need to do something about it. You have to massage the data to something that is supported by your application, okay? And then your application, assuming specific format and structure, like I mentioned earlier, so you have to transform those messages, right? So data agnostic payload must be interpreted but no context, okay? So there's still an issue here. So how do we address those, especially to make sure that the gap here can be eliminated, all right? So therefore, in the Eclipse is actually a non-profit organization, which is comprised of many big players, all right, big players in the IT as well as in the OT. They have this one called Sparkplug B, okay, the MQTT Sparkplug B. So it's an open specification that will enable plug and play interoperability between the IoT devices and IoT application. Okay, so regardless whoever the vendors or the edge computing, once they are compliant to this spark plug B, all the topic namespace, data model and structures, extensible process, variable payload, and all the state management will be defined and will be standardized. Okay, will be standardized, and by doing that, so all this equipment and no matter it's a gateway or PLC or the native devices will speak one language, which is MQTT Spark Plug B. Okay, and from here, all the messages, all these application nodes will be retrieved. Okay, so this is a publish and this is the subscribe. Okay, the application will subscribe to the MQTT Broker, which is supported Spark Plug B with the same data format, and they will be put into the IT application out of box. Okay, in a way, I would say out of box. Okay, so it depends also on what is the data that you want to retrieve and so on. So, and probably you need some extension in between as well. So it is subject to the use case or the business case, which is something that we really, we really want to help, the manufacturer and ourselves, our partners in the region. Okay. So I put it as a Hive MQ as a MQTT broker here is because we are actually the Hive MQ partners in this part of the region. Hive MQ is actually a commercial MQTT broker, but what I'm trying to say is that not necessarily to be a Hive MQ, it could be a Mosquito or some other open source MQTT broker, which could support the Spark Plug B. But again, is that if let's say your environment is that you cannot have you cannot tolerance with a downtime, or you can you must make sure that the data is transferred securely. Hive MQ can provide those, all right, comparing to the other MQTT broker that you are in the market, and they have many use cases such as like smart manufacturing as well as connected vehicle, because MQTT is basically just a message, it's an infrastructure to move the messages from those devices to the application. Okay, so and if you're looking at having a good reliable MQTT broker, Hive MQ is the one that you should consider, all right? And because they have all those clustering, load balancing capability, which is some of those open source may not be able to deliver that. Yeah. And Hive MQ also come with a community version. If you would like, then you can go to the www.hivemq.com. Okay. So, yep, that's all about my webinar today. I think it's a very short session. So I hope that every one of you having a great time enjoying this. And if any questions, you can actually post it on the screen so that I try my best to answer that. And yeah, I hope that those are challenges I can do another round or maybe every 2 weeks once, right, to address those challenges, which as I point out earlier, why MQTT is in terms of connectivity and security, which I didn't touch that on today's session, right? So I hope that will be put onto another day, right? Okay. Is there any questions that you're having on the floor?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. No problem. Yeah, we'll wait for a while. Yep.
Okay, there's a question coming in.
Yeah.
Is MQTT only support format connecting OT and IT?
It's not really the only format. But there is advantages of why MQTT. Say, for example, you may have other connectivity or protocol type, such as like OPC UA or OPCDA. But again, why MQTT is that MQTT becomes a de facto protocol for the IoT and IIoT. And due to the reason is that they are a small footprint, means that they are very minimum packet size, which can be transferred over unreliable network. Okay, so that's the reason why when it comes into smart manufacturing or smart factory, MQTT is always one of the great choice. One of the reason why the industry is selecting the MQTT. I hope that answered the question.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the question.
Okay, I think there's no more question from the floor.
Yep. Okay, no problem. So if this is my email and also our company's website. So if you have any question, you can just drop me an email, or you can go to our website to look what other solutions or what other things that we're doing, right? Or even can just drop me an email for a common conversation to share a bit about things about MQTT or about the smart factory. It's a pleasure to sharing with you, right? Thank you so much, everyone. Have a smarter day ahead.